So today I have a treat for you because we have two guests, not one, but two guests. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? So this is...
I'm Justin.
Justin, you guys, some of you know him as my fiancé. We've been together for
1 year.
Just 1 year. So we're just celebrating our 1 year anniversary. Woo, woo. Now, the reason why this is going to be an interesting episode is because we have Tom over here. And Tom, how long have you been with your wife?
26 years.
26?
Yeah, well, except if you count the 2 weeks we dated before I proposed.
Yeah, you're right.
And then the 3 months that we were engaged. And then
I feel like it's all counted,
26
right?
and 1/4.
Yeah, it's like 26 and a quarter.
These guys. So we're actually going to get a couple of takes on what he thinks of regarding relationships. And then we're going to actually look at it from another perspective where Justin is going to give his take on kind of the different dynamics so that we can get a broader idea of how we can be really close-minded when it comes to relationships and when it comes to, oh, well, we don't have as much experience or we have more experience or whatever the case is. The dynamics are still the same. So if you're ready to get real, raw, and unfiltered, let's go.
Welcome to the carnival. I'm the ringleader now. Won't hear a sound at all. It's out very low, 6 feet underground.
Now we're gonna go ahead and start off with talking. We've talked to Justin a little bit, but Tom, I want to know a little more about your relationship with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So can you give us a little history?
Yes. Okay. This is the perfect story that kind of sets the stage for, is what I did not, we dated for 2 weeks, right? And then we were engaged for 3 months and then we got married, right? And bought a little house. And I didn't really know what to expect, but so right after we got married, I was sitting on the love seat and I had just got an Xbox, the first generation Xbox, the little black one.
Yeah.
And I was playing Rainbow Six. So I was on the couch playing Rainbow Six. My friend Desi was on the other side of the love seat and playing away. And I could see, I had a straight shot vision into the kitchen where my wife was standing making a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my head, I ran through this dialogue in my head. Oh, she's got all the sandwich stuff out, making a sandwich. She could easily, since the sandwich fixings are out, you see where this is
make
going.
me a sandwich.
So in my head, I was thinking, this is logical. She's got all the stuff out. It will be a minor inconvenience for her to make an extra couple,
Right.
Desi and me. So in my head, it sounded like, baby doll, you, the most wonderful angelic wife in the entire world, could I impose upon your grace and have you condescend and make an extra 2 sandwiches while you're at it, since you're in there and you're loving and kind? That's how it came out in my head.
Mind you, in his head, guys, in his head.
What she heard was, hey, can you make an extra couple sandwiches? That's what she heard, which is probably what it actually sounded like in reality. And so I'm in the middle of a mission, Rainbow Six, and all of a sudden, my peripheral vision detects a flying object. And I look up, and there's a loaf of bread flying through the dining room and lands in my lap. And just as the bread is landing in my lap, she yells from the kitchen, why don't you go ahead and make that sandwich yourself? And so there I am, a loaf of bread, controller, mission over. I'm like, okay, Desi, looks like, if we want sandwiches, we're making them ourselves.
Right.
That set the stage.
Nice.
For
which
the
is
future.
which is funny, okay, because here's the thing, right? You notice how he gave, this is what I thought I was saying in my head. And then he gives what she's thinking, right? And he's probably still wrong because he's not, she wasn't sitting there thinking, oh yeah, he asked, can you make a couple extra sandwiches? She's probably sitting there, which I don't know his wife, but I know women. Okay. And in my mind, if you're asking me anything when you're sitting there and you're just playing video games, in our minds, what are we thinking? We're like, who the hell? Who does he think he is? Is he serious? We are not. No, we are not back in the 50s. I am not going to go put on one of those fluffy little dresses, right? We're thinking it's a downright order. That is the difference between a mind of a man and a mind of a woman, is that we will always have a little bit of PTSD about, excuse me, first of all, I'm not going to be Susie Homemaker for you forever, okay? That's not how this is going to fly. You're going to make your own food as well, right? So I just wanted to put that out there, right? Because that's kind of what happens is we think of what our spouse is thinking, right? But we don't really know, do we?
No. And I found out since that for those 3 months we were engaged, she watched my parents and my parents who were married in the 50s.
Yeah.
And my dad always had my mom making sandwiches, and
Yes.
my mom always cooked and did the dishes and stuff. And so what she told me later on, so in the 26 years since that first year, she said, I watched your parents. I saw your dad treating your mom like a slave. And so for that 3 months, she was worried that I was going to be like that. And so when I asked for a sandwich, that was the trigger. She's like, oh no, we got to shut this down now.
And this is at the beginning of your relationship,
yeah.
right? So we're talking,
26 years.
26 years ago. And Justin and I have been together for a year. And Justin, I already know.
I was just thinking, could you imagine, opposites, if you reverse the roles, hey, babe, can you change the AC filter? And I just throw the AC filter across the room. How about you do it? I'm just not going to be your handyman the rest of your life.
I never thought about that. Justin. That's awesome.
I mean, it's a give and take and just be kind, right? It's
just be kind. I like it.
And see, this is the different dynamic, right? Where I don't even know what to say. That's not even where I was going, guys. That's the whole point, right? Real, raw, and unfiltered. So that this is why we bring Justin on, so that I can hear all the stuff he refuses to say when we're not on the camera.
But I mean, I guess back to, we're new too, so there's a little bit of nervousness. It's if you, especially in 2025, if you're doing something in the kitchen, hey, you're making dinner, but it's it's 2025. Hey, can I help with dinner? Be your chef. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's at least, and then you can always turn me away and tell me to go take out the trash or change a light bulb or something, I guess. But yeah, I got to go in there with realize I'm still learning you. I mean, it's been a year. Some people say it's a long time, but it's still.
But granted, it's still the same dynamic. 26 years ago, that same thing. Let me tell you, I can't tell you how many times this guy right here sat there and he's like, hey, can you do this? And he sits down on the couch and I just look at him and I'm all, I don't know. I'm kind of doing 6 other things. So when would you like me to do that? Before or after I do everything else? And he's just sitting there. I'm like, what are you doing? Just looking at the news on my phone. Stop it. Put your phone down right now, because it's about to be a war zone. Now, I did want to kind of shift gears here, right? So here's the thing, right? Is what we're talking about is how we tend to we put our thoughts into other people's minds. Essentially, we're inserting, this is what you're thinking. This is what my perception of what you're thinking is, right? Now, Tom was telling me before we started recording a story about him and his wife, and I wanted him to share that experience because I really think that this is very enlightening and actually a really healthy relationship situation, and they handled it beautifully together. So did you want to...
Which one was it?
Which one was it?
We talked about a lot of stories.
We talked about the one with the car, when you're in the car.
With the phone?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this morning, Mary and I are going to the gym. And we just got in the car.
Oh, that was this morning.
That was
That
this
is like
morning.
fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. So we climbed in the car and I turned on the car. And the first thing that happened was her iPhone connected to the Bluetooth had just started playing whatever she'd been listening to. And my 17-year-old had just been driving the car. And so the radio was the volume was turned way up. So we get in the car. It's a quiet morning. And all of a sudden her music just starts, actually it was a podcast, starts blaring. And she goes, "Oh, I hate it when my iPhone just connects to Bluetooth and starts playing. I want to control that, but I can't turn that off." And I said, and I just made an offhand comment that with my Android, there's a toggle switch. I can just turn that off. In my head, it sounded like, oh, I have that capability to just turn that off. And she replies, "Oh, because you hate Apple now and you've got Android and now Android's perfect and you hate Apple. Everything Apple sucks." So now we're driving away. I was like, is that what I sounded like just now? She goes, "Well, yeah, every time you mention something about your phone, it's the best phone ever and your iPhone sucks. You're so glad to be away from my phone." I was like, wow, I had no idea. So now it's just silence. We're driving to the gym. And then a few minutes later, she goes, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that. I just, the house is going on the market today and I'm really not ready for that. And so I'm feeling really upset about that." And so that just kind of came out totally
A
wrong.
lot of emotions coming out.
Yeah. And so I realized, that's what originated that. That's why it was, "Oh yeah, I hate that there," because of the emotion that she's feeling
Yeah.
about something totally unrelated.
Yeah.
And so I was glad that I didn't say, I'm glad that didn't explode into an argument, because that would have been a stupid argument, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, if you really think about it, most arguments are stupid arguments. It's miscommunication galore, or it's like, again, like I was saying, right? You insert your own perception of the scenario and you think that's your new reality, right? So so Justin and I, we also have, like, I have Apple, he has Android, right? And so I definitely relate to that, because, like, as we saw when we were trying to connect everything, he's like, "Well, I don't know, this is Apple. Screw you on Android, man. You don't know about my life." Anyway,
Apple catches up eventually.
but it is funny that even though the big thing is that it doesn't matter how long you've been together, right? The biggest thing is that you have to be present in the moment, no matter where the relationship is, right? Even on a first date, you have to be presently listening, because there's nothing worse than sitting on that first date. They tell you all these things, and then you're on date 3 or 4, and you ask those questions again because your anxiety's high, right? But they don't think that. They don't think your anxiety's high. They think, "No, we talked about this, so you need to remember all this." I'm speaking from experience, because that is exactly what happened with he and I, where we still sit there and I'll be like, "We had this conversation. Remember this one time that you were half listening?" And as I'm saying it, I'm like, shit. Yeah, he was half listening, Angela. Obviously, you're not the center of attention 24/7. He's not going to remember everything. But when you're in this dynamic of, I need to constantly be aware that it's not just my perception, like the situation with his wife, he could have easily sat there and been like, "You're not going to talk to me that way," which is what a lot of us do these days. Let's be honest. We sit there and we're like, our ego is like full protection mode, right? Because we have parents that, were overbearing, controlling, overprotective, uncommunicative. And so we have these dynamics of, like, our opinions matter. We want to be heard. We want to be validated to the point where we shut up everybody else's validation, because our validation is the only one that matters, right? So he could have sat there and been like, "I've known you for 26 years and I'll be damned if I have to sit here and listen to you take it out on me, right? He could have easily sat there, but instead he took it as, this is a little off. This is off brand for who my wife is. Because let me tell you, this man, just talking to him, he is so in love with his wife. You can tell, right? And it's just that energy of, wow, like that is, goals. But then you look at Justin and I, and we have that same dynamic, and people are like, they've only been together for a year. That's why, right? They don't even know what it's like. But Tom knows. Tom knows what it's like. And I want him to tell you another story that he was telling me that I think is so powerful. He was talking about when he plays around with his wife. And this is a family episode, guys. So don't
G-rated.
G-rated. Let's not get any ideas. We're not going to go. We're not in swinger mode here.
So playing around. So was there a specific trigger? What was that? Remind me exactly of the story that we were talking about.
When we were talking about how you were clipping your nails, and then your wife came over with floss.
Yeah. Okay. So,
and I was like, all right, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. It's G-rated. Clipping my fingernails. So we're in the master bathroom. She's getting ready for bed, and my nails had needed to be clipped for days. Right. I hate it when they get super long. So I'm sitting there on the toilet. I've got the trash can in between my knees, and I'm clipping my nails, and all of a sudden she's doing her teeth, and all of a sudden she starts draping the used dental floss on my hand. I'm like, what are you doing? Ew! She just won't stop. I'm like, God. But I was in a position I couldn't drop the can, and so she does stuff like that. Every once in a while, I'll be in the kitchen doing man's work, which is cooking. Like, everybody knows that, right? So I'm in the kitchen doing some cooking, and she'll come in I'll open the pantry to get something, and she'll just slam up against the door and pin me into the pantry.
Oh my God.
She knows when she does that, I just melt into a puddle of goo laughing. I don't know what it is. She'll come up and she'll just pin me up against the counter or something like that. And it literally just melts me inside. It is the funnest thing in the world when she gets playful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably a once a week thing. I mean, it doesn't all the time, because she's got a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff that's going on in her head. But every once in a while, she'll get playful, and I absolutely love it.
That's so amazing. That's so amazing. I woke him up this morning. He refused to wake up. He said, I want to go running with you, right? So he tells me he wants to work out with me. He wants to go running with me. But, it's that promise that you make when you're not waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is what I did to him. And he refused to wake up. So what did I do? I tickled him. And I had to tickle different areas. Let's not get weird. But I tried his underarms. Nothing. I tried, I was trying. Yeah. But I tickled his side, right? His waist. And he was like, did it jerk? And I was like, yes, victory will be mine. I felt like Sparta, Sparta. Yes. I was like, nailed it. And then he got me back, because he started doing it back. And I was like, ugh. It's like, it's not fun when it goes backwards, guys.
Well, it's funny, you're saying time to get up, but you have to get off me so I can lay on my arm. Like, all right.
It's true, because I was tickling him, but then I was tickling him. I was like, we got to get up. But then I was just cuddling with him, because that's the whole thing. We always have to look at what the next best thing is, or we look at somebody else's profile on Instagram, or we look at somebody else at church, or we look at somebody else at the kids drop off. We look at all these different dynamics, and we automatically assume that the couple, if they're together, right? And I love it when women say this to me, or men say this to me. Oh, well, this is just how our family is now. This is how our marriage is. When you get to be together for 15 years, for 20 years, for 25 years, and every single time I say the same thing, I said, good God, that sucks for you, because you think that your marriage has to be mediocre. if you're married that long. To me, I don't believe in that. I believe that 26 years should feel like 1 year, that 1 year should look like a blink, like that. You're like, wait, we've been together for 1 year. I believe that when you are truly in that relationship, then it doesn't feel like there's any kind of time. In fact, it feels like you start getting a little anxiety because you're like, oh my gosh, like we're getting older and I want to spend more time with you. I want to be in that dynamic. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I guess like, well, I mean, gotta keep your inner child too, right? As they say,
The inner
stay
child.
playful, be comfortable. And you want to make funny voices, once in a
Right.
while.
You keep
Tickle,
it fun.
Go play in the dirt when no one's around.
You want to go play in the
Well,
dirt?
play in the garden.
We're going to go mud wrestle later, guys.
I like to garden, and my wife doesn't. She absolutely doesn't, because when she was little, pulling weeds was a punishment.
Oh, okay.
So I like to get out in the garden. I like to grow tomatoes, and so that's my thing, right?
Yeah.
But she doesn't do it. When we first got married, it was the first New Year's Day. We both like Star Wars. And back then there was only 5 episodes of Star Wars. And so I suggested, hey, on this, New Year's Day, let's binge watch all the Star Wars movies. Took all day. We were exhausted by 11:30 at night and we agreed we're never going to do that again. So, but we both like sci-fi and fantasy series. But she one time, shortly after we got married, she said, hey, do you want to watch Sound of Music with me? And I had heard of Sound of Music, and I had seen like little snippets of it on TV. Julie Andrews on the grassy hill. Hills are alive.
Hills have eyes. No.
But I love you so much, I will even torture myself with Sound of Music for you.
Yeah.
So we started watching it, and it was brutal. Like the first half, it was just brutal. But, I'm doing it because I love her.
Falling asleep.
And then I don't know if anybody's ever watched Sound of Music, but if you've never seen it, I'm going to spoil it for you. There's this scene where the camera comes up over a building, and suddenly on the building that you see are swastikas hanging. And my eyes popped, and I looked over and said, you didn't tell me there were Nazis in this movie? This is a Nazi movie? She goes, yeah? Like, you could have led with that, right? Then I would have been like on the edge of my seat the whole time. Now I love
waiting for it. He's like, are they going to pop out now?
Right.
When is it going to come?
A week ago, she played Do Re Mi. I'm like, are we playing the Nazi soundtrack? I don't know if you.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. Because I was like, I just looked at him because the kids were in the car, and I looked at him. I was like, really, babe? Time and place. Time and place, babe.
So later when she said, hey, do you want to watch Pride and Prejudice with me? I was like, are there Nazis in this one too? It's 1800s England, so probably not. There might be, redcoats or something. Turns out there are in Pride and Prejudice, redcoats. And I found I absolutely love Pride and Prejudice.
I was telling him before we started recording, I was telling him how he was talking about it, and I was like, I've been trying to get Justin to watch Pride and Prejudice, and he's still like, nope.
I'll
Nope.
get to it.
So we were willing to expand out.
Right,
and
outside
I was
of it.
I was willing to do something that I perceived as not masculine.
Yeah.
Wow, I found out that, Pride and Prejudice is quite masculine.
Right.
Sound of Music, Nazis, that's pretty dang masculine.
Right.
I didn't feel like I had to compromise manhood.
People aren't necessarily being blown up on the show.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so I kind of feel like I feel a little more sophisticated.
Right.
So,
It's a little bit of masculinity with sophistication.
yeah, and it's okay. And so
Pinky up.
you know what? So 25 years, it still feels fresh to me.
Which is that's so amazing to me. Like you can sit there and say that, oh, this is important and this is important. And once I have this, but to me, it sounds like every single moment, no matter where you're at, right? Because you were saying your wife didn't originally even want that house. And now that you're leaving it, she's getting that feeling, right? Because you guys built that home there. You built that.
And the memories.
Yes.
Yeah.
The memories is like the hardest one because we've only been here, a year, and it's like the thought of leaving here is like a bittersweet feeling because we made those memories here. We had that family, those family dynamics, and we had Christmas here and we had New Year's where we were dancing, you know. You saw it in my PowerPoint presentation where I was dancing. That was at New Year's. I was like, yeah. Or no, was it New Year's? It was a Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, that halftime show. I don't know if you guys watched that Super Bowl halftime show, but I was like, what the hell is this? And it was like just everybody booty popping, dancing. And I was like, kids, let's get up and dance too. So I was just like, you know, acting like I was a thug. So it was great. But that is what relationships are all about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're single. It doesn't matter if you're married. It doesn't matter if it's with your kids, with friends. I think humor is like taking things not so seriously and taking it for what it is and enjoying. Whether you, like, some people like, I don't have a personality, or I don't have, like, I'm not a very funny person. And it's like, no, we can all be funny. It's just taking the time to enjoy, right? Taking the time to enjoy, taking the time to experience. And I don't think it should ever stop with any relationship. I think that experiencing continuously, like Justin and I, we experienced a B&B for the first time. And I told him about that. Like we experienced a B&B, and that was very interesting. It was fun, but we had a fireplace and the guy did not have AC individual rooms, right? It was like powered at the main house and it was 75 degrees. And I was like, oh man, I'm having PTSD from when I was younger, you know? And then the door was locked at 10 o'clock. So Justin couldn't put his leftover cheesecake in the fridge because we got locked out of Dad's house. But it was fun. It was fun. And we could have sat there and been like, that was the worst anniversary ever, right? But what's the purpose? What's the point of getting so angry about, you know, things not being perfect? And so I guess what my question for you, Tom, is how important has been finding humor and finding the fun and experiencing new things? I know you've kind of touched on it here and there, but really want to see what you think about those different dynamics.
Well, you just said something really interesting that I hadn't thought about before, but you were talking about getting locked out with the cheesecake and it wasn't perfect, right?
Right.
And here's the thing that I've never really thought about before is what if it's when things aren't perfect that you're actually creating a memory that later on, when you talk about it, like when you're sitting around the table, like after 26 years, we've had a lot of not perfect things. And when we're sitting around the table talking, it's always the things that were disasters that are funny, right?
Yeah.
It's a disaster in the moment, not funny in the moment. But in a year or 5 years or 10 years, those are the things we talk about. And it's almost like, here's what I'm going to think about now is whenever something goes off the rails, when it doesn't go according to plan, I'm going to think, okay, this is where the memory is built, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're going to talk about around the table in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. We don't, and that's exactly what we talk about all the time, right? Is that whenever we look at a memory, what happens 90% of the time is we look at all the things that happen wrong, like a bad relationship.
Yeah.
Right? You can have 1,000,001 good experiences in that quote unquote toxic relationship or that bad relationship. You don't remember any of those, right? You remember when you were gaslit or when they didn't communicate well or they cheated on you. You know, it's very hard as human beings. We look on the negative because we get attention. We get, even if it's toxic attention, we're getting that attention. We get to sit there and complain. We get to sit there and talk negatively, right? But it is so much harder to look at those instances and say, how can we take that bad, quote unquote, bad situation and turn it into? And that's exactly what you do with those situations, right? Is you sit there and like ours, it's like, we could sit there and be like, that was the worst anniversary ever. Or we can sit there and say, we got to listen to some guineas screaming, howling, and it was so sweet. Every single time, like, we had to open our windows because we were dying of heat, right? And then we'd hear the guineas at 2:00 in the morning. Justin, do you want me to close the windows? Yes, I do. He'd close them. An hour later, open them up. Hey, do you need me to close those again? Yeah, they're really loud again. Close them. That is the most romantic thing to me, because somebody cares about me that much that they're willing to get up again and again and again to do something just to ease you, right? So you can sit there and say, oh, that was such a bad experience. Or you can sit there and say, I got the opportunity to see my significant other be so romantic and so sweet and show me how much I mean to them.
Hmm.
And that is what relationships are. No matter if it's watching, I mean, he could have hated The Sound of Music, but he was willing to watch it because of the relationship dynamic, right? And how much he loves his wife. And that is exactly what it should be in every relationship, is not controlling it or assuming, or I think we talked about that earlier too, that before we were recording, we were talking about assuming that relationships are good. Assuming that everything is fine when it's clear, like you find out that your friend is
Getting a divorce.
Yeah. And you're like, I thought we were having regular lunches with them or dinners, or we were having get-togethers in any way, shape, or form. Or you see that person at church and you're like, oh, they're such a happy family. And then you're in your head, you're like, oh, I wish that my family was happy like that, right? And then next thing you know, you find out that they're getting a divorce and you're like, well, I mean, I guess I don't wish my family was exactly like that. You have no idea. You have no idea. Like, I have no idea what Justin thinks unless he says it. And even if he says it, who knows if he's lying or not, right? So I get where it's like hard to trust in the relationship, but being able and being willing to trust that person and be playful enough, because playfulness comes from trusting, right? Because you can do that inner child version of you and play with that version of you, right? And I think that's so beautiful that somebody that's married for 26 years loves his relationship with his wife so much that they can sit there and they can be playful with each other, even at the ripe young age of 29.
Angela, you said something a few minutes ago, and it caused me to think that maybe relationships aren't built on a foundation of really, really big blocks. They're built on little tiny things.
Yes.
Right. And so, and intentional things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for example, I know that my wife absolutely loves homemade chocolate chip cookies. And sometimes I will be somewhere and there will be refreshments. And if there's ever a homemade chocolate chip cookie there, I snag a couple and put them in a bag and take them home to my wife because she absolutely loves them. And she knows when I come home from somewhere, if they had homemade chocolate chip cookies, she knows I brought her some because I don't intentionally think about it, but I did intentionally think about it for a while. And now when I see homemade chocolate chip cookies, I think of Mary. And I snag a couple. I might not even want any for myself, but I snagged some for her. And I think that's important to her because like you said, Justin opens the window, closes the window, and opens the window, closes the window.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we need to do all the time. We need to be intentional and we need to remember it's the little things.
Yes. Yes. And constantly not worry, but constantly wondering if I want to have someone treat me special, I have to be willing to treat that person special.
So it's reciprocal.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times what we do is you should just know. You should just know. You should just understand. Don't you understand that my life has been hard? Don't you understand I'm triggered? And that was one of the biggest things that we struggled with was me sitting there. I mean, wonderful Walmart when I was attacked. It was like, I'm being triggered right now. And it got to the point where I had to start doing therapy because I was like, I was taking all of my wounds that were coming back up and I was putting them onto him. I was projecting everything, all my pain onto him. And I was like, you should already know this. Just because somebody knows it doesn't mean that they don't matter as well. And I had to sit there and say, do I love this man? Yes. Do I want to ruin this relationship? Hell no. So what do I have to do? I have to swallow my fucking pride and my ego and actually realize that I need to work on my stuff without projecting it onto him. Because then it becomes that stressful dynamic where you can't even be playful. Because when you're playful, you're like, oh, so you think I'm fat? Oh, you can't even do, like with your situation with you and your wife. She's sitting there being playful and you're like, that's disgusting. You're putting your plaque all over my feet. That's so gross. Like sometimes like I shave Justin's back right here, right? And he will sit there and I can shave it off and he loves to like try and wipe. He's like, oh, hey, babe. Like we're in the shower. He's trying to give me bear hugs. I'm like, I hate you. All those little tiny hairs. And he's like, here, let me share. Sharing is caring. And I'm like, you are so horrible.
I mean,
But-
I shave things for you. You shave things for me. It's
not get weird.
give and take.
It's fine, guys. But the point is that when you can actually have a relationship with yourself, then you don't take it personal. And then you can take stuff, even sometimes when people are being passive aggressive or they're being, they're flipping out about a phone, and you can sit there and you can be like, oh, did I actually do that? I'm so sorry. That is powerful. That is so powerful to be able to notice that even if your partner is upset, that does not mean it has anything to do with you. And even when they say it has to do with you, 9 times out of 10, it's just something that you said, you did, a smell, a sense. We talked about this, right? In my 5-part series for rewiring your brain. We have our 5 senses, and your nose, your smell, that sense passes the bouncer, right? Your bouncer, AKA the part of your brain that literally monitors your senses and what can come in and what can't. Yeah. So these different senses are coming in. And so somebody could easily be triggered. So when we look at the dynamic and say, this person loves me, we can take out those emotions of anger, hurt, pain, and regret, all those different things. And we don't have to take it out on the partner. Any of our relationships, kids too. Don't get me started on that because kids can trigger you like none other, right?
Yeah.
My feelings matter too. And we're like, okay, all right, but it's knowing, like when you message your son, you're talking smack to him and everything, you can already sense what he's doing, what he's thinking,
And then I chewed him out for texting me during school.
See, it's beautiful. You can sit there and be like, that was fun. He's the one that messaged his son to mess with them. And then he's like, why are you on your phone? First and foremost.
I'm telling your mom.
I tell you, and now his mom knows because this podcast. So you're welcome. You're welcome, son of his. So anyways, so the point of this episode is that it doesn't matter if you're with your partner for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Go be playful. Go have fun with them. And don't take them getting upset as the end all. Sometimes people are just bitchy. Sometimes people are just emotional. Sometimes people just need a hug, even though they don't know that they need a hug, right? It's communicating your needs, communicating your thoughts, like communicating that I'm sorry that I was feeling that way. And with that, I want to ask, is there anything that you guys want to add in? Maybe something, a little last bit of advice for our listeners?
Yeah, I had a question. I mean, so after 26 and a quarter years being together,
And the quarter.
I'm assuming
Gotta remember
you've
the
had
quarter.
some real negative and sour times here and there. And would you say that you basically, swallowed your pride or made an active effort to be playful and push her through? Well, both of you, but if you feel like you need to make a push to, you want to survive kind of thing.
That's good. So one piece of advice I always give newly married men is get used to saying, I'm sorry I was a jerk.
Oh, she loves that.
Because Because I really do think humility is a big part of relationships because, like
Yeah.
you said, Angela, well, we all have trauma. We all have moments where we're out of character, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think we can allow the tendency to get out of character to become a permanent thing, right? And so maybe we need to give each other the benefit of the doubt and assume that if it looks like you're having a bad day or a bad moment, you're having a bad moment. So humility is a big part of it. And the second thing is intentionally dating. So we have a date night every Thursday. And usually we just go to Culver's and have ice cream. But while we're there,
Little stuff.
it's the little things. Yeah. And so we're not allowed to talk about domestic things like bills or kids or anything else. It's got to be like a real date.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask her things like, is purple still your favorite color? Or maybe, and after this podcast, I'm going to start to include this question that I should have included before. What is the hardest thing you've had to deal with this week?
Mm-hmm.
And is it still weighing on you? I've never thought to do that before. Usually it's like, have you ever ridden a motorcycle? What was it like? What's the thing you would like to do the most? A bucket list thing, right? Or what was the worst date you ever went on? Hopefully it wasn't with me. One of those kind of things.
But if it is with you,
I
then
wanna
being
know.
open to hear it so you
Totally.
can take notes and be like, how can I improve, right?
That is one of the questions I
Yeah.
ask. Okay, and I don't ask it every week, but hey, if there's one thing that I need to change,
Yeah.
something that really gets on your nerves, what is it? And then I'm willing to give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really awesome.
And I'll second that. I agree with what you said because that's stuff that I'm actively working on and not very good at yet. So, but I know I need to
none
get
of us
better.
are really good.
So
at
it's
it,
like,
yeah.
especially saying sorry as a jerk, because a lot of times maybe my childhood work, whatever. I'm like, well, let's push through the problem, then I'll worry about saying sorry later. But like, I'm learning, like, okay, we can't wait that long. We remember like our third or fourth date. I remember actually actively saying out loud, just from past experiences, I was like, hey, we are telling each other so much information about each other. It's like, if I forget something, know that I've been listening. It's just a lot. So like, if I have to repeat something, I won't take it personally because it's a lot of information. So it's like,
He still has to remind me, guys. Still has to remind me because I'm like, remember we talked about 10 things the other day. You don't remember every single one of them? You didn't put them on your calendar. But it's a constant growth, and being willing to work on those things. And I think that both of you, I think that it's really beautiful that you can find that beauty and ask those questions, because I think when we look at from our view, there's so many things that we don't actually see or know, right? Because we get overwhelmed with thoughts, and especially in today's world with all the technology and all the podcasts and all the social media, it's like, oh my gosh, overload. But I really appreciate you coming on today, and I will definitely be adding some of your stuff into our dates, because we have
Awesome.
dates every other Tuesday and every other weekend. So we have it about the same as you. So we will definitely be using that in our dynamic too. And we'll definitely have to have you on again. And maybe you could bring your wife on sometime too.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just throw her in there and they're like, let's go. We can do like a couples, what is it what's that show? That old school show that was like the
like couples quiz.
kind of like Family Feud, or like the one where they ask the questions, the people have to answer the questions, and then the spouse comes in, and you see how many
dating
things.
game.
The dating game.
Yeah, like from the 50s?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
We could totally bring that back. That sounds like fun.
When I was a kid. It's like his old shows.
Maybe they need to bring it back. Maybe.
And the newlywed game was the other one.
Yes.
Newlywed game.
The
Yeah.
newlywed game.
Actually,
That's
yeah,
the one I was
it's not dating,
thinking
it's
of.
the newlywed game.
Yeah, where you'd answer a question about Angela, right, to see how well you knew.
We
the-
have
Yeah.
an app for that. It's pretty.
That's what the app that we use is for. I answer all the questions and then he has to guess them. And sometimes we sit there and I'm like, Seriously, you got 20%, which there's 10 questions. So that means you got 8 of them wrong. Yeah. I'm saying that, but that was actually me that got 20%, guys. So, but thank you again for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, whatever you're watching this on. Do all the things and make sure you're pushing this out. Send it to your nana, to your tata. I'm just kidding. All right. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.